A senior Israeli defense official telling me just now the Islamic regime's greatest vulnerability is energy. They describe the energy system in Iran as the Achilles heel for the Islamic Republic because roughly 50% of Iran's GDP is based on their energy program. And this is part of the reason that the president is focusing his threats on the energy infrastructure inside of Iran. The president understands that when it comes to the Iranian regime, the two things that are keeping this regime afloat are their energy infrastructure that is used to funnel money to the IRGC and the weapons that are currently being used against U.S. forces and allies across the region, and the oil infrastructure. And as Fox can confirm, overnight, dozens of U.S. strikes targeted Karg Island, where 90% of Iran's oil exports are located. This gives you a sense that the United States is looking once again to send a final message to the Iranian regime. The president on Truth Social just moments ago sending a final message to the Iranian regime.
Yeah, he sure has. And certainly we were talking about an escalation of significance here.
But I just got off the phone with the president, and he called, and I said, listen, if you were to put odds on it, what were the odds that this is going to end up being a negotiated deal? He said he wasn't going to put odds on it, but he said 8 p.m. is happening. That's what he said. He said, it is, if we get to that point, there is going to be an attack like they have not seen. Now, he's sticking to that at this point. Now, he said if negotiations move forward today and there is something concrete, that could change. But at this hour, he didn't want to put odds on it, but he said it is moving forward with the plans that we have. That's a huge deal. And obviously, we all think that it's a thing that he's putting out there to say, don't do this. He says he doesn't want to do it, but he is, at this hour, sticking to it and saying it might be likely if they don't come to the table.
Brett can confirm overnight the United States hit dozens of targets on Iran's Karg Island. This is the island responsible for more than 90% of Iran's oil exports. Fox's Jennifer Griffin says the targets included bunkers, radar stations, and ammunition storage. As this was taking place, the clock is ticking as it relates to that deadline President Trump laid out Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, just about 12 hours from now, before Iran must make a deal with the United States, or the president says he will order strikes against Iranian power plants and bridges.
Brand new information now from the IDF. Israel says it has targeted 8 bridges in Iran, and that the regime has been using that for transporting weapons and to advance their terrorist actions against Israel and other nations across the Middle East. Meanwhile, just moments ago, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt weighed in on this with, quote, the Iranian regime has until 8 p.m. Eastern to meet the moment and make a deal with the United States. Only the president knows where things stand and what he will do, end of quote. And, of course, that was in response directly to reports that Iran has pulled away completely, no more comms at this point with the United States and our representatives in the negotiations. So that was the White House's response to that.
All right, here we stand 6 hours away from all kinds of hell being unleashed on the Iranian people. I mean, it looks absolutely devastating for them. I want to read you what President Trump posted this morning. If you haven't seen it, strap on, because this one's huge. President Trump posted, a whole civilization will die tonight, never to be brought back again. I don't want that to happen, but it probably will. However, now that we have complete and total regime change, where different, smarter, and less radicalized minds prevail, maybe something revolutionary, wonderful can happen. Who knows? We will find out tonight, one of the most important moments in the long and complex history of the world. 47 years of extortion, corruption, and death will finally end. God bless the great people of Iran. Kind of interesting if you dig and look at this from a structure perspective. He closes it, God bless the great people of Iran. And at the beginning, he says an entire civilization will die tonight. And everybody's out there screaming bloody murder, 25th Amendment. We got to get him out of office. This is insane. He's a madman. And I'm going to go back to that first sentence. Those of you who are English majors may look into this, and he said, he didn't say, I'm going to kill all the Iranians. He said a whole civilization will die tonight, meaning the way that country is structured, this is my opinion, the way that country is structured, how it's been ran for 47 years is going to die tonight. Didn't say I'm going to kill everybody in the country. Didn't say I'm going to go Hiroshima. Didn't say I'm going to go Nagasaki. I'm going to destroy the civilization. Now, yes, you could draw a parallel and say he's talking about killing people, but he's not stupid. The media is trying to whip everybody up. The Democrats, the Panicans, they're the ones who are causing all this problem. It wasn't President Trump by what he said. And even then, it's talk. And I don't know, maybe I come from the sports world too much and I understand trash talking. Doesn't mean I'm going to, quote, kill you. Means I'm going to beat the crap out of you. We're going to stop you today. And I'm not at all trying to interpret what the President of the United States meant when he put that up. We're all going to find out at the same time. That's what I'm trying to underscore. That's what we all have to sit back and wait, because none of us, not a single person on television, not a single pundit, not a single Panican, not a single Democrat, maybe not even most Republicans have any idea what he's talking about. So why would we try to put words in his mouth and try to say this is what he means? Because I don't know. I know you don't know. We're all going to sit back tonight and watch the show, whatever it is. May end up being nothing. We may be staring at a blank screen together going, yeah, so it's 8:01. What's going on? It's going to be the most watched television night ever. People around the world are going to be glued to their television sets, their computers, their smartphones, waiting for 8:01. Is things going to go boom? I don't know. None of us knows. I mean, Caroline Levitt, and she put out something that they read on television, and I found that to be quite interesting as well, because she made it known nobody knows. It's a complete mystery wrapped up in enigma. But what we do know is this is not going to continue much longer one way or the other. And so my opening video there was to show you they did exactly what I said they would do last night. They were going to make videos showing women and little children wrapped around power plants and bridges. They took the bait, they ran with it, and they did exactly what, if put it this way, if I knew last night during my show, and I said to you guys that were watching, if I did it, if I said they're going to wrap kids and women around these bridges, you watch. If I knew that sitting here in Boca Raton, Florida, I'm pretty sure Pete Hegseth, Ratcliffe, General Raising Cane, and President Trump knew, or at least planned, that that would be their reaction. Now, given what you saw with the raid and how they were able to extract the guy who had the pilots who had to scurry up 7,000 feet, and you know now, in the aftermath of that entire operation, that they used a great deal of deception to get their Iranians running over here looking for those pilots, and they were over here. So what kind of deception do you think is being used today? I don't know, but I'm pretty sure a great deal of deception is being used. Nobody wants them to know what we're going to do or when we're going to do it. And I feel like today's show, I got to bring some sanity back because, oh my God, the gaslighting and propaganda on both sides is insane. The gaslighting that I've been seeing is worse than anything I could be watching in a Hollywood movie. You literally have the Democrat politician screaming bloody murder as if he has killed everybody in the entire country. I told you war crimes was going to be an echo over and over and over, war crimes. They don't know what's going on. And on the other side, supposedly our side, which can no longer be our side, you've got the Panicans and the Doomers and the Black Pillars. They're all screaming bloody murder. And in fact, I'm going to show you a video where one of these guys, actually two of them, are saying, go into the White House, bop him over the head and take him out. It's absolutely insane what people are talking right now. And the part about it that makes it even more insane is none of them have any idea what's going on. So I'm hoping you hold on to your sanity as we begin going through today's show, because I got a lot of stuff I want to show you. Hopefully the voice holds up. It's getting crazy out there. Real crazy. I want to see, is SV in here? See if he's picked up anything. There he is. What's going on?
Hey.
You got anything?
Man, you talked about gaslighting, so you might want to hold your nose for this next story. Fartwell, he blamed Russia for Trump's win. He now claims FBI and China are rigging the California governor's race.
Oh God.
Gosh.
I think he's got a lot more to worry about than that. A lot more.
Exactly.
With all this fraud. I mean, I've got so much stuff today, it's going to bleed into tonight. And one of those things I think I'll wait till tonight is Todd Blanche did his first press conference as the acting attorney general. And he didn't hold any punches either. I mean, I love it. You guys will see that. So what else?
Yeah,
go ahead.
Well, I was going to talk about that briefly. I could just basically just touch on it just a little bit to let people know. Okay, so breaking. Todd Blanche, excuse me, says there are trillions at stake every year that are threatened by sophisticated fraudsters. The time for this comprehensive and coordinated approach is now. We're going to staff this division by some of the department's best prosecutors, bringing together experts in healthcare fraud, tax fraud, benefits fraud, and corporate fraud under one roof with one mission: to protect the American people from fraud. So he's on it. He says he's going to be working 24/7, 365. He's on it.
And I want to tell you and everybody else watching, don't for a minute think a lot of what the Democrats and the Panicans are doing isn't trying to set up something for 2026 for the midterms. And by trying to get Trump out of office, which is insane by itself, but everything they're doing is for their own best interest. And I think people have to recognize that. So I'll show you some of that. Hopefully it'll make some sense here, because they're all out there. 25th Amendment, 25th Amendment. I'm going to dig deep into the 25th Amendment because I think people need to know that. All right, let me I'll get back to you very soon. All right, so before we start the show, because I always lead in and then we start it, let me talk to you about today's first sponsor. And our first sponsor is, isn't it Brightcore? It's Brightcore. Hold on one second. I forgot to bring in my images for them. Why didn't I do that? I guess, I'll have to do it later. Let's just roll.
One man is being victimized by our own government. One man whom they fear, yet whom millions love. One man who is willing to take the poison arrows of lawfare. One man whose voice has been taken away by a corrupt judge operating in a corrupt system. One man who has been ridiculed and insulted. One man who refused to back down. One man who refused to back down. One man who refused to back down. One man who stands between us and them. One man that wants to see America protected again. One man who wants to see America prosper again. One man who understands that a man is a man and a woman is a woman. One man who understands and protects the blessing of life. One man who wants to restore American exceptionalism. One man who once again wants to make America that shining city on a hill for all to see. A place where all the people of the world glowingly set their eyes upon. America. One man who unashamedly wants to make America great again. That one man is Donald Trump.
This is Fanfare with Barry Cunningham.
All right, so before we get too deep into this, I want to kind of put everything together as we lead into the stuff about the 25th Amendment. And to do that, I want to show you the unified approach that the Trump administration is displaying. You just heard about the post from Caroline Leavitt going, 8 o'clock, that's it. President Trump, 8 o'clock, that's it. Well, you may not know, but J.D. Vance is in Hungary. And he's over in Hungary, and he had two different appearances. He had a press conference, and then he had a speech. The speech is kind of long, so I'm going to hold off on that. But I do want to show you the press conference because questions about tonight come up in this press conference all the way over in Hungary. But before that, let me tell you about Brightcore. The war in Iran is right now is obviously raging. It's actually going crazy. And we've got people here that don't understand how it can have a devastating effect on the people here. What most people don't realize is it's affecting everyone on a global scale, but they aren't understanding the health issues that are occurring. Every time a missile is launched or a bomb goes off, tiny microplastic particles are being spread into our atmosphere. If you look around, microplastics is now the word everybody is talking about. RFK Jr., Dr. Oz, it's very, very serious. Our atmosphere is leaching into our soil and our water and eventually ending up in our body, causing irreparable harm. They cross the gut lining, they leach into your blood, and they disrupt everything. They've been shown to alter gut bacteria, suppress your immune response, and increase your risk for heart attack and stroke, cognitive diseases, and even cancer. There's now a plastic spoon worth of microplastics in the average human's brain. But your gut can help you fight back. Kimchi, one from Brightcore Nutrition, is a potent ally in this toxic world. And information has come out specifically on how Kimchi can actually help you. It's packed with over 900 probiotic strains unique to kimchi and proven to bind and excrete microplastics, helping you detox from the inside out. Your body was never designed to handle plastic, but your gut was designed to protect you. You just have to give it the right tools. And one of those tools is kimchi. Many people here in the Fanfare family are taking it. I'm taking it. Robin's taking it. And yes, it is helping. Today, you can get an exclusive offer by clicking the link in the description for 25% off your entire order. Or for an even better deal, you can call my friends at Brightcore for up to 50% off your order and free shipping. Give them a call now at 888-418-6738. All right, so let me play this press conference with J.D. Vance and Viktor Orban over in Hungary. I cut out the Hungarian stuff because I know you probably don't understand it. I don't. I don't have an interpreter, and they didn't put up, closed captions, so I don't know what he was saying. So I stitched together just the stuff from J.D. Vance. I want to play this, and then we'll talk about it.
Well, thank you, Prime Minister, first of all, and thanks to the people of Hungary for welcoming me. This is a beautiful city, a city that I've been to once before on a personal trip, probably 5 or 6 years ago. And I remember the first time that I came to this beautiful country, my wife was about 20 weeks pregnant with our second child. And now we've come back to Budapest, and my wife is 20 weeks pregnant with our fourth child. So there's an interesting way in which our trips to Hungary have rhymed. I also want to thank the President of the United States, who, of course, is a dear friend of Prime Minister Orban and a very strident supporter of Prime Minister Orban, because together, the President of the United States and the Prime Minister of Hungary have been able to do amazing things. And we're here because we want to celebrate those amazing things. We want to build upon those amazing things. And, of course, I want to help as much as I possibly can the Prime Minister as he faces this election season, which I believe is...
All right, so I want to stop you there, because in the midst of everything going on in Iran, the media is pissed off that J.D. Vance is helping Viktor Orban get elected. You got to hear this.
Everybody around Trump loves to run away from the word collusion. Collusion, no collusion, no collusion, no collusion. Let's talk about the collusion that's going on right now between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin to elect Orban. We had last week Michael Weiss on. They have a transcript of Lavrov talking to the foreign minister of Hungary, basically plotting and scheming to try to help Orban out before the election. You have Donald Trump doing everything he can to get Orban elected. And you have J.D. Vance over there. Again, we believe in Western civilization, as I'm coming over here to drive a stake in the heart of Western civilization with the one guy who hates Western liberalism and brags about being illiberal. And they're Vladimir Putin's biggest friend. They're Vladimir Putin's only hope in the EU. And you have Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin both working to the same end to elect the most anti-democratic thug, and he is a thug, in all of Europe.
You're going to see a theme in regards to these people are terrified that the world is changing as they know it. The world is completely changing. People are revolting against the liberal insanity, and it can't really be collusion and corruption if they're doing it openly. They're not, no whispering. J.D. Vance is on stage with Viktor Orban. As far as I know, you can endorse a candidate. There's no corruption. There's no collusion.
There are two things going on here. One is Viktor Orban.
By the way, we're the Republicans. We're the people that grew up like believing what I believed growing up. Richard, where are they? People that believed in the West, people that believed in Western democracy, people that believed in Western liberalism, people that believed in a free press, people that believed in a free election, people that believed in a strong West that pushed back against Russian authoritarianism.
Russia, Russia, Russia. We're back to that. I had posted something the other day, and I'm like, pretty soon they'll be calling us deplorables all over again. Basket of deplorables, fascist, racist, homophobic, xenophobic. You're back to Russia. These people have like 3 playbooks. It's racism, Russia, and, now it's the 25th Amendment. They can't even run on their own basis. All they can do is keep complaining because their worldview that the Democrats have been holding on to like a greased pole is slipping through their hands. They don't like what Bukele and what Javier Milei did in Argentina. They don't like the fact that President Trump is telling NATO to go pound sand. Why? If you think that question and come up with that answer, it becomes very clear. By all these countries uniting with President Trump, their grift is over. whatever kickbacks and money were coming back from these other countries, you got J.D. Vance, who happens to be what, guys? Tick, tick, tick. The fraud czar. And he's out there talking to these other countries, doing something a vice president has never done. And we keep saying that. The mold is being broken with the Trump administration. You got a president doing stuff they've never seen. You have a vice president doing stuff they've never seen. You have a secretary of state doing something they never seen. And so all their bolt holes where they've stolen money, where they've taken money from you and me, and where they've gotten their kickbacks, even to the media, it's not hard to see. These people are terrified.
Where are those Republicans in the Senate? Where are they in the House? Where are they on television? Where is my tribe? They have all vanished for Vladimir Putin and Viktor Orban. Where are they?
That doesn't sound unhinged, does it? That doesn't sound like somebody whose diapers are too tight. Of course it is. They're freaking out. They're absolutely losing it. Again, hitting on the desk. Easy, man. Your blood pressure is going to pop up there. Notice the side in politics right now who's screaming. They can't even contain themselves. And then yesterday, again, the word I use is contrast. You saw President Trump up at the podium. Whatever. Saw Pete Hegseth. We're going to kill. General Kane. Yep, we're going to do this. John Ratcliffe. Every time you see somebody from the Trump administration, they're basically cool, calm, and collected. And now you're seeing everybody on the other side screaming bloody murder. Why? That's what you have to keep asking yourself. Dude, what's wrong, man? Why y'all freaking out? Because the more you start seeing it, the more you're realizing we are indeed winning. Oops, wrong button.
Happening in just about a week, the election to elect the next prime minister of Hungary. Now, I don't expect, of course, the people of Hungary to listen to the Vice President of the United States. That's not primarily why I'm here. But I did want to send a signal to everybody, particularly the bureaucrats in Brussels who have done everything that they can to hold down the people of Hungary because they don't like the leader who has actually stood up for the people of Hungary. And I think it's important to say that. There are so many things that we could point to. There are so many economic pieces of cooperation, so much investment that's come into Hungary from the United States. I think Viktor Orban has been the single most profound leader in Europe on the question of energy security and independence. It is funny to watch prime ministers and leaders in some of the Western European capitals talk about the energy crisis when, frankly, they should have been following the policies of Viktor Orban in Hungary. And if they had, the energy crisis that they're experiencing would be a lot less bad, because what's going on in Hungary right now is that while, yes, energy prices are elevated, they're far less elevated here than they are almost anywhere else in Europe. And that's because of the leadership of the man who's standing next to me. And I think that leadership can provide a model to the continent. We want Europe to be successful. We want European families to be able to afford to heat their homes and to build great things.
Same as the message here. We want you to be prosperous. Now you know why average Joe, dumb Joe, morning Joe, why they're banging on desks. A prosperous, free economy. A prosperous, free people is an anathema to what these liberals want. They need these people contained. They need these people subjected to government rule. And here's Viktor Orban bucking the system completely. Hey, well, let's help. Let's make things cheaper here. Let's make our economy better. Well, these other countries are trying to keep people in a certain situation. Also, not a whole lot of crazy immigration in Hungary. You don't turn on the television and see a bunch of the Somalians running through the streets of Hungary. The more nations who begin to coalesce and align with the Trump administration, the worse it is for the Democrats. Because what? Because when people experience prosperity, you don't need those type of people in charge.
We want Europe to be energy independent and even energy dominant, but it's not going to be energy secure if it continues to follow the failed policies of the past. And so I think Victor has been a great example in charting a course that could lead to a better, more prosperous, and more energy secure Europe. There's a lot of other
Bingo. When you listen to these people talk, whether it's JD or Trump, and you hear what their core message is to people even in other countries, we're going to make it so you get money. And it's shocking. Wait a minute, you're going to lower my cost? You're going to increase my standard of living? I'm not going to have to eat gruel? Meanwhile, all these other leaders are like, hey, we just need to tax you and take your money. And by the way, here's a gazillion Somalis. And J.D. Vance, from what he just said, that's what they're promoting. Not an alignment with Russia. They're trying to, basically proselytize prosperity. What's wrong with that? Nothing.
Operation in technology and artificial intelligence and manufacturing. There are so many ways in which the United States and Hungary have been great economic partners, and that partnership has really accelerated over the past couple of years under President Trump's leadership. But ladies and gentlemen, I'm not here primarily, Victor, because of the economic cooperation between our countries. I'm here because of the moral cooperation between our two countries, because what the United States and Hungary together represent under Victor's leadership and under President Trump's leadership is the defense of Western civilization, the defense of the idea that children should be able to go to school and get educated and not indoctrinated, the defense of the idea that European and American families should be able to transport themselves and be able to afford to heat and cool their homes, the defense of the idea that we are founded on a certain Christian civilization and Christian values that animate.
The defense of our way of life. And that could be your way of life. Christianity? Ooh, that caused some problems. And so when you listen to him speak, you understand why the Democrats, the media, are losing it. The proselytizing that he's doing is about encouraging some of these other countries to follow our way of life, or the life we're trying to enact here in America. They don't want people to have any idea what that's supposed to be. Prosperity? Christianity? Boys are boys and girls are girls? No DEI? No immigration? It destroys the globalists.
Everything from freedom of speech to rule of law to respect for minority rights and protection of the vulnerable. There is so much that unites the United States and Hungary, and unfortunately, there have been too few people who have been willing to stand up for the values of Western civilization. Viktor Orban is the rare exception that has unfortunately proved the rule. That's one of the reasons why I'm here. I'm here because Viktor is a statesman, and we have seen so much talk in European capitals about the need to end the war in Russia and Ukraine, and we certainly agree with it. The war would have never started if President Trump had been president 4 years ago, but now that it has started, probably the two leaders who have done the most to actually end that destructive conflict have been Donald J. Trump and Viktor Orban in Hungary. And
I heard that, didn't know it, and I'm like, that's why they're screaming. Obviously, J.D. Vance is over there, and now we're finding out that Viktor Orban from Hungary has been working closely with President Trump about the Iranian stuff. Obviously top secret. We don't know what the heck they're talking about, but J.D. Vance just dropped that nugget.
Done it through diplomacy, through talking to people, through trying to understand what the Ukrainians and the Russians need to end the war. We're going to continue to participate in that process, but I think that it is a testament to the people of Hungary that you're a country of 10 million people, but I'm telling you, I've sat in all the rooms and I've been on all the phone calls. Your leadership has been a far, far more important and constructive partner for peace than almost anyone anywhere else in the world, and that is a great testament, I think, to the wisdom and the courage of the people of Hungary. And then finally, I just want to say one final observation about this election. What has happened in this country, what has happened in the midst of this election campaign is one of the worst examples of foreign election interference that I've ever seen or ever even read about. The bureaucrats in Brussels have tried to destroy the economy of Hungary. They have tried to make Hungary less energy independent. They have tried to drive up costs for Hungarian consumers, and they've done it all because they hate this guy. But I think that what the people of Hungary, what I would encourage them to do is ask themselves the question, not who's pro or anti-Europe, not who's pro or anti the United States of America, but who is pro you, who is pro the people of Hungary. In my experience, I've seen a guy who has ferociously advocated for the interests of Hungary. I'm here to help him in this campaign cycle, and yet when I sat down with Victor, we didn't talk about politics. We talked about Here are 5 things that we need, that the Hungarian people need from the United States in order to further our partnership and in order to achieve prosperity. That's the kind of leadership that is needed. And on everything from...
As you hear him talk, light bulbs should be going off when you hear the things that he's helping Hungary with. In the middle of a war, there's an 8 o'clock deadline. He's on stage in Hungary talking about bringing them to the table and helping them become more prosperous as people. I've said it before. I'll continue to say it. You have not heard the word prosperity nearly, not at all, from the Democrats. And here we are, J.D. Vance, Trump, they're constantly talking about it. All they can talk about is taking more of your money. And I'm not saying money is the end-all, be-all, but it would make a huge difference in your standard of living if you kept more of what you earned. That's all we're talking about. You don't need the whole thing with Joy Reid. Oh, my God, they're looking to go back to no income tax and keeping what you earned. She actually said that like it was a bad thing. Like, what? Yeah, that's exactly what it is. We want less regulation. We want to keep more of what we earn. I don't want to keep more of your money. I don't want to keep more of the government's money. I want to keep more of my money. That's exactly. And they act like it's a foreign concept. Can't believe people want to keep their own money.
Digital censorship. Why are bureaucrats in Brussels telling social media companies what information they're giving to Hungarian voters? I think the voters of Hungary are adults. They are sovereign in their own country, and they should be able to look at whatever information they would like to about the election without somebody in a faraway capital treating them like children. Sovereignty, democracy are fundamentally about the people choosing. And part of the reason why we're here and part of the reason why the President of the United States sent me here is because that we think the amount of interference that's come from the bureaucracy in Brussels has been truly disgraceful. I won't tell the people of Hungary how to vote. I would encourage the bureaucrats in Brussels to do the exact same thing. So, Victor, thank you, and it's good to see you.
Thank you very much.
We'll take a couple of questions. Do you want your willingness to host? And just to answer your question, so I'm not aware of President Zelensky threatening Viktor Orban. I know that there have been a lot of people who have threatened Viktor and have frankly not just threatened the people of Hungary, but have actually tried to exact costs on the people of Hungary because their leadership has been one of the few that's been wise and smart about the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. Now, look, you don't have to defend the morality of the war. I think Victor has. I certainly have. The President of the United States has condemned the invasion. We don't like the war. We want it to stop. That's not the question. The question is, how do you make it stop? And the answer is not by politicians who stand at microphones and beat their chests and act tough when somebody else's children are going off to fight in a conflict. You do it through sustained diplomacy. And so I'd ask the people of Hungary, and not just Hungary, but the people all across Europe, what is the alternative to peace? Is it to continue feeding young men into this terrible, terrible war, to continue this completely ridiculous cycle of violence, or is it to get serious about diplomacy? Is it to continue to have skyrocketing energy prices to the point where European economies are on the verge of collapse, or is it to sit down and get serious about a peaceful resolution? The reason the President of the United States has been so dedicated about this is not because it affects us as personally as it does the people of Hungary or Europe. In fact, we're much more insulated, as all of you know, from what's going on in Russia and Ukraine than most countries anywhere else in the world. The President has asked us to work so diligently on it because he knows that it's bad. It's bad for commerce. It's bad for morality. It's bad for human life. We need to actually engage in some real diplomacy. Victor has been better at anybody at helping us understand what is it the Ukrainians need and what is it that the Russians need in order to achieve peace. We're going to keep on working on that process. As you've all heard the President say, this war has been the hardest of all the wars that he's worked on to solve, but we're going to keep on working at it. The President has ordered us to keep on working at it, but we need people in Europe who understand the stakes and understand how to get this negotiation done. Victor's been a great part of it, which is why the President asked him about the Budapest summit, because I think wherever we're going to get these leaders together, this is the perfect place to do it, a place of real statesmanship, a place that has shown itself very willing to be a positive force for peace. It's within the Ukrainian intelligence services that tried to put their thumb on the scale of American elections, on Hungarian elections. This is just what they do. This is part of the cost of doing business within some elements of their system. I try to remind myself that Ukraine, like the United States, is a very complicated place. There are good people and there are bad people. There are people that try to interfere in others' elections, and there are people who actually...
That's interesting. The last time we saw Joe Biden going over there, explicitly saying he was interfering. And so now the fraud czar is over in Hungary and he's dropping little nuggets about, they've been interfering in our elections. That was very interesting to me.
We just say, you know what, we believe in sovereignty for everybody, and that's what we support. For example, there were people in the Ukrainian system who were campaigning with Democrats literally in the weeks before the presidential election where Donald Trump won very comfortably in November of 2024. So I'm aware of that stuff, but, I don't think Victor lets that stuff get to him. I don't let that stuff get to me. We're here to try to solve the problems for the people that we represent. And whatever certain elements within the Ukrainian system think about me or think about anybody else, I really believe it's in the best interest of Ukraine, the best interest of Europe and Hungary, the best interest of the United States for this war to come to as rapid of a close as possible. This is the seeds of this war, the seeds of this conflict were actually planted well before the fighting started. And they were planted when European leaders decided that they were going to go so deep into a particular energy economy that they were going to cut themselves off from oil and natural gas that came from the East. That was a huge mistake then, and it's obvious that it's a huge mistake now. And it's funny when I hear people accuse, my president, for example, of being pro-Russia. My president has done more to help Europe out with energy and liquid natural gas than anybody in the world, which weakens Russia, because we would love our allies and our friends to pursue smart energy policies so their consumers can pay less money, but also when, God forbid, there's a conflict, they can rely on us rather than another country for the energy that they need. So it's so funny to me that very often the very people who accuse this or that leader of being pro-Russia are the very people who created an energy-weak economy in Europe to begin with, and that has done more than anything to make Ukraine weak and Russia strong. We just want the killing to stop. We want to get back to commerce. We recognize there's a lot of difficult issues, but the way to solve those issues is to talk to one another and to actually engage in the hard work of diplomacy.
And Mr. Vice President, 2 questions. It's your call, please.
Sure. So I want to call on a couple members of my pool because they traveled all night and are here with us. So let's start with Natalie at the Washington Post.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. The clock is ticking to tonight when the deadline looms for avoiding bombing infrastructure in Iran to the Stone Ages, as the President has said. Do you have any new information to believe that a deal can be reached by then? And secondly, there's been some rhetoric from this administration, your administration, about this war, God supporting the United States in this war and the strikes against Iran being part of God's will. Do you agree with that? And what do you make of the idea that God is on the side of the U.S. in these strikes?
All right, so before he answers that question, I just want to let you know SV just sent me an alert, and that alert is just in. American B-52 bombers have just been spotted taking off from a military base in the UK. If headed to Iran, given around 6 hours remaining in a flight, they'd be within striking distance around 8 p.m. tonight. What does that mean? Absolutely nothing. That could be part of a diversion. Remember when they bombed Iran the first time and they sent out planes in different directions? And the ones that were actually going to bomb Iran, they turned off the transponders and people thought the other plane was going to Guam out that way? Means nothing. But it means something. Something is happening, but it doesn't necessarily mean that those are the planes that are going to make Iran go boom tonight. So this question, you remember, J.D. Vance is all the way over in Hungary. And this woman from the Washington Post asked two crazy questions. Is the president serious about 8 o'clock? And what role is God playing in his decision?
Well, so you asked if there's new information, and I don't, unless I have a text message from Steve. Well, I do have a text message from Steve Witkoff. Wouldn't you like to know the subject of this message? But no, I need to read it first before I talk about it. But here's what time is it in the United States right now? Okay, that makes sense. All right. Okay, so Natalie, on this question of the deal, I really think there are two pathways. The president's been very clear about this. There are two pathways that this thing is ultimately going to end. First of all, the United States has largely accomplished its military objectives. There are still some things that we'd like to do, for example, on Iranian ability to manufacture weapons that we'd like to do a little bit more work on militarily. But fundamentally, the military objectives of the United States have been completed. So that means, as the president has said, very shortly this war is going to conclude. And I think the nature of the conclusion is ultimately up to the Iranians. I think there really are two pathways, and I'm oversimplifying this a little bit, but I think pathway one is where the Iranians decide they're going to be a normal country. They're not going to fund terrorism anymore. They're going to be part of the world system of commerce and exchange, and that's going to mean much better things for them economically. It's going to mean better things for the peace and safety of the world. It's going to mean a lot of good things for a lot of people all over the planet. That's option A. Okay. Option B is if the Iranians don't come to the table and they stay committed to terrorism, to terrorizing their neighbors, not just Israel, but of course their Arab neighbors too, then the economic situation in Iran is going to continue to be very, very bad, and frankly, it will probably get worse. And so what the president has asked his entire team to do, particularly Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, is to figure out what are the contours of a potential deal. What are they willing to do? Because militarily, it frankly doesn't matter one way or the other to us. It's fundamentally a question of what does this look like afterwards, and that has been what the negotiations have been focused on. And the president's also been very clear that while the Iranians are trying to exact as much economic cost through the Straits of Hormuz, the United States has the ability to extract much greater economic costs on Iran than Iran has on an ability to extract costs on us or on our friends in the world. So I hope that they're smart. The president has set a deadline for about 12 hours from now in the United States. We're going to find out, but there's going to be a lot of negotiation between now and then, and I'm hopeful that it gets to a good resolution. The second question you asked about, is God on our side? Is God on, whose side? I think my attitude towards military conflict has always been to pray that we're on God's side. And my own view is that we're doing this for the right reasons. We're doing this because we don't want a regime that has committed acts of terrorism to have it the world's most dangerous weapon, because that would mean a lot of innocent people dead. I certainly hope that God agrees with the decision that Iran shouldn't have a nuclear weapon, but I'll keep praying about it. And if he gives me a good answer, you'll be the first to know, Natalie. Next question. Let's see. I think we have Reuters and AP. Let's do Reuters. Okay, good. I checked my earpiece to see if somebody in my staff would tell me who I should call on, but nobody answered. This is just Hungarian, so go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. This is Sumeyra Pamuk from Reuters. I have a couple of questions. I do think you have to read that text because we have reporting that the United States is striking some targets in Kharg Island. You did say that the military objectives of this war have been achieved. So could you help us understand why the president is still threatening to attack every bridge and every power plant in Iran? You also said that this will wrap up soon, but yesterday in his press conference, when he was asked about a timeline, he did not give a specific timeline, and he had said 4 to 6 weeks, and we're now in week 6. Do you have a specific timeline? Excuse me, these are spontaneous questions.
That's a lot of questions.
Okay, I'll stop. I mean, the Hungary question is this. If Prime Minister Orban loses, does the United States commit to working with the new leader? Will you have a golden age relationship with the new leader? Thank you so much.
Well, of course, we're going to work with whoever wins the Hungarian election because we love the people of Hungary and it's an important relationship. But Viktor Orban is going to win the next election in Hungary, so I feel very confident about that and about our continued positive relationship. Victor, is that right?
That's the plan.
Okay, all right. So you asked about Kharg Island. My understanding, having talked to Pete and General Kane about this, is that we were going to strike some military targets on Kharg Island. I believe we have done so. The president's deadline has been.
So remember, this speech or press conference was at 7:30 a.m. our time, Eastern, 7:30 in the morning. So that text that even she mentioned it came out that boom, they did blow up some stuff on Kharg Island. So I don't know if it's a precedent to what's coming at 8 o'clock. Don't know, but we shall see.
Followed by us and everybody else. And he said very clearly, we're not going to strike energy and infrastructure targets until the Iranians either make a proposal that we can get behind or don't make a proposal. But he's given them until Tuesday at 8 o'clock. So I don't think the news in Kharg Island represents a change in strategy or represents any change from the President of the United States. He continues to say the deadline is 8 o'clock. And the deadline is for what? Fundamentally, what Iran is trying to do, because they've been defeated militarily, is they're trying to extract as much economic pain on the world as possible. And the President of the United States is a man who recognizes leverage, that if the Iranians want to exact a certain amount of pain, the United States has the ability to exact much, much greater pain. The President doesn't want to do that. I don't want to do that. That's why we're negotiating so aggressively. But fundamentally, the ball is in the Iranians' court. Now, I think the President has talked about this. One thing I will say is that the Iranians were not the fastest negotiators before the war started, and they are certainly not the fastest negotiators now. So we recognize there's some delay sometimes in transmitting messages from one person to another, but we feel confident that we can get a response, whether it's positive or negative. We're going to get a response from the Iranians by 8 o'clock tonight. I hope they make the right response, because what we really want is we want a world where oil and gas is flowing freely, where people can afford to heat their homes and cool their homes, where people can afford to transport themselves to work. That's not going to happen if the Iranians are engaged in acts of economic terrorism. So they've got to know we've got tools in our toolkit that we so far haven't decided to use.
Right there, right there. The whole question Q&A, that part right there got me. I want to back that up like 5-6 seconds. I want you to hear that again. All right. So because that was I think very telling about what may be happening tonight.
That's not going to happen if the Iranians are engaged in acts of economic terrorism. So they've got to know we've got tools in our toolkit that we so far haven't decided to use. The President of the United States can decide to use them, and he will decide to use them if the Iranians don't change their course of conduct.
So that we've got tools in our toolbox that we can use tonight at 8 o'clock that they don't know about, that President Trump could choose to use at 8 o'clock. Well, if they don't know about it, then obviously the media doesn't know about it. Neither you or I know about it. The Panicans don't know. What tool are they talking about? Remember when the whole thing happened in Venezuela and the whole discombobulator thing came out and nobody had heard about it and nobody really still knows about it. They just know that people pooped themselves and fell down and who knows? And now we got a new tool that we may see at 8 p.m. I don't know. Is that why these guys are up in space by the moon? I don't know. Are we talking about a directed energy weapon that he could take out infrastructure and not hurt people? I don't know. I was shocked when I heard that. I'm like, wait a second. What tool do we have that nobody knows about? So when you see the B-52s, no, I don't think that's not it. Everybody knows we got bombs. Everybody knows we got all kinds of ordinances that can blow stuff up. So there's some secret tool that they have that may get launched at 8 p.m. Now I got to tune in. Now I just got to sit here with you guys tonight and watch television and go, what button is he pushing? Is it a satellite? I don't know. SV, have you heard anything about it? What's this tool he's talking about?
I think we need to get people to buy stock in Depends before 8 p.m. to make a lot of money.
Oh my gosh. I can't even. I'm doing my work and doing my research. I've got my headphones on at home and I'm listening to him. And I got to the end and I just turned my head and went, what tool? And he just dropped it in a speech. You know, we got some stuff we might do. I don't know, we might not do. It all depends on what President Trump wants to do. I'm like, oh my gosh.
It seems like the discombobulator would be the best weapon. I mean, nobody would be getting on alive.
The discombobulator isn't going to destroy the bridges and the infrastructure. I mean, they got some sort of concrete discombobulator. The fragments of the concrete are just going to fall without
I'm just
killing
talking about turn all the power off. I mean, just scare the crap out of them. Let them know that we could take it out at any time. I mean. You have no internet, you have no power for, electricity or lights. I mean, I'd definitely be scaring a lot of people.
Yeah, if they had no lights.
The fear and anxiety.
Wow. Well, we all shall see at 8 o'clock tonight. You got anything?
I just saw a breaking. Bahrain announced they will cease all activities at their main port starting tomorrow. This comes after Kuwait told their citizens to stay home tonight, and Saudi closed their bridge to Bahrain. The Gulf is preparing for the worst. So they're already starting to prepare. Yeah, just saw that.
Now, see, whatever is going to happen, he's probably already told the allies this is what's about to happen. So, get out. And instead of getting out, they're tying their people to bridges and power plants. Absolutely crazy. And I did see them tying their people, not tying, but they're all hand in hand around a nuclear power plant. That'd be the worst. I wouldn't want to be nowhere near a nuclear power plant that might go poof. Oh, man, that could be crazy. All right.
Speaking of Depends, it just came up. Joe Biden was just seen walking aimlessly around a coffee shop. I'm serious. That just came as breaking news on 911.
I've been watching some of his stuff and Kamala Harris, and I'm like, you guys are just lost. They got nothing. If President Trump is your focal point, you're still not saying what you're for, you got nothing. All right, I'll be back at you in a little bit. I'm going to get something to drink here in a second. So the next segment I want to get into is pretty deep. We're going to talk about the 25th Amendment, and we're going to talk about some of these people that are complaining and urging for the 25th Amendment. It's absolutely, I can't even believe that they're talking about that. But one of the things they don't talk about in the media or anywhere else is what exactly is the 25th Amendment. So I'm going to talk to you guys all about that in a second. But before that, I want to tell you about Chapter. Medicare, as you know, can be very confusing. As someone who turned 65, not a long time ago, I can confirm this myself. Keeping track of enrollment periods, understanding all your options, and making sure you're on the right plan takes a lot of time and energy. And between Medicare scams, corrupt agents, and bloated insurance companies, it's easy to make mistakes that can cost you thousands. That's why I'm happy Robin and I went to Chapter. They're actually honest and the only Medicare advisor that looks at every plan nationwide, and it can help you save an average of $1,100 a year. You can get all this in one free 20-minute phone call. That's it. They will tell you. These guys won't push you to buy any insurance plan that you don't want, and their support is completely free, as in it doesn't cost you anything. So if you're turning 65 soon or have questions about your Medicare coverage, call them at 475-328-3545 to get the most out of Medicare. Most people wish they called sooner. And you can go to their website at askchapter.org/Barry for more information that way. All right, so I'm going to come back with some information on the 25th Amendment. Give me 90 seconds.
Welcome back to Fanfare with Barry Cunningham.
Trump calls in U.S. to invoke the 25th Amendment against President Donald Trump have resurfaced following an expletive-filled social media post directed at Iran made on Easter Sunday. In the post, Donald Trump renewed his threat to escalate military action if Tehran does not reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Donald Trump warned Iran to open the Strait of Hormuz or face severe consequences, including potential strikes on infrastructure such as power plants and bridges. The remarks drew swift criticism from political opponents who questioned both the tone and substance of the message. The highest-ranking Democrat in the House Rules Committee, Jim McGovern, tweeted, "This is psychotic. The President of the United States needs to get help. Totally unhinged and extremely dangerous." He pointed that international experts on human rights law are sounding the alarm on America's conduct in the war, including serious violations of the Geneva Conventions and international law and possible war crimes. Congresswoman Yasamin Ansari tweeted, "The 25th Amendment exists for a reason. The President of the United States is a deranged lunatic and a national security threat to our country and the rest of the world." Section 4 of the 25th Amendment allows the U.S. Vice President and a majority of the Cabinet to declare the President unable to discharge their duties, making the Vice President the acting President. The renewed debate comes against the backdrop of escalating conflict between the U.S., Israel, and Iran. Trump calls in U.S. to invoke the 25th Amendment against President Donald Trump have resurfaced following an expletive-filled social media post directed at Iran made on Easter Sunday. In the post, Donald Trump renewed his threat to escalate military action if Tehran does not reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Donald Trump warned Iran to open the Strait of Hormuz or face severe consequences, including potential strikes on infrastructure such as power plants and bridges. The remarks drew swift criticism from political opponents who questioned both the tone and substance of the message. The highest-ranking Democrat in the House Rules Committee, Jim McGovern, tweeted, "This is psychotic. The President of the United States needs to get help. Totally unhinged and extremely dangerous." He pointed that international experts on human rights law are sounding the alarm on America's conduct in the war, including serious violations of the Geneva Conventions and international law and possible war crimes. Congresswoman Yasamin Ansari tweeted, "The 25th Amendment exists for a reason. The President of the United States is a deranged lunatic and a national security threat to our country and the rest of the world." Section 4 of the 25th Amendment allows the U.S. Vice President and a majority of the Cabinet to declare the President unable to discharge their duties, making the Vice President the acting President. The renewed debate comes against the backdrop of escalating conflict between the U.S., Israel, and Iran.
I use that broadcast because I found it interesting that it's being talked about in other countries. That this message that the Democrats are putting out there about using the 25th Amendment is harming our country because they're talking about it elsewhere. It's not just something you're talking about in a vacuum. And they know that. They're picking it up in other areas of the world. And so let's dive headfirst into the absolute, as I would call it, the absolute idiocy, the sheer unadulterated corruption, and the Trump derangement syndrome fueled madness of the media, the Democrats, the never Trumpers, the Trump haters, the black pills, whatever you want to call them, who are now openly screeching for President Trump to be yanked out of the Oval Office using the 25th Amendment. I don't think they understand what they're saying. I don't think they understand what they're doing. They don't want this. They do not want this smoke whatsoever, and they haven't thought it out at all. These people are so deranged, so completely out of touch with reality and with America, that they're treating the Constitution like it's some sort of get-out-of-jail-free card, or even worse, just something they can use when they want to use it, when they want to throw their political temper tantrums. It's embarrassing, and it's beyond embarrassing, it's dangerous. What you're watching is an open coup attempt. You are watching people publicly advocating for the overthrow of the American government, and they're doing it publicly. Listen to this. Click the button. Click.
Compared to existential threat. How do we 25th Amendment is asked?
The problem is to get the 25th Amendment is harder than impeachment. You have to get 2/3 of the House and 2/3 of the Senate.
So what do we do?
Tackle Trump and pretend, let him pretend he's president and publicly report that he's going through a health issue and Vance take over. It literally needs to be something like that. It's that bad.
I've known you a long time. You've never called for an internal coup before.
Ever.
They're calling for a coup openly. They are making videos saying, drag him out. How do you feel comfortable going on X and saying insanity like that? That's not a First Amendment issue. It's not okay that you are openly advocating a physical removal of a sitting president. We've known that the Candaces and Tuckers of the world are nuts, but this takes it to a whole new level.
But that's how dangerous this is. That's how risky it is for the whole world.
Yeah, if I was the Democrats, I'd stop poking Trump and messing with him. That only makes it worse. Like, you guys need to watch out. This isn't a guy acting like he's crazy. This is real.
Well, what's there going to be to take over in 2026 or 2028 if this hits the fan? If we get it, he's threatening an extinction level event for the people of Iran tomorrow. Does nobody think there'll be any blowback from that? If he follows through on that, the whole world is screwed.
You were saying during the break, there's other ways to do this. People need to not just tell him the truth, like Susie Walsh said. It's time to just not. Say what you just said.
Yeah, well, legally and constitutionally, the vice president is an independent elected official. The same is legally and constitutionally. The only oath any member of the military takes, any member of the State Department.
Stop. That's incredibly dangerous. There are so many nuts out there right now. And now you're saying openly that we should be exercising a coup against the White House. That is beyond the 25th Amendment. I don't know what's going on with people. Well, actually, I kind of do. I actually kind of do. I understand that you need that for money. You need that for clicks. You're saying it solely so you can try and get as many of the insane people to buy into that crap. even though I despised Obama, even though I despised Biden, I would never have gone on my videos and told you, kick in the door and drag him out. I don't know what to say. This is insane. These people have completely lost it on the left and on the right. All right, let me tell you guys, first of all, straight up, especially my fellow maggots and deplorables who remember when not so long ago the Constitution actually meant something and the media wasn't a Democrat super PAC. The 25th Amendment, in case you don't know, wasn't written to let the losing side throw a hissy fit. It wasn't written for people who are on X and YouTube to have some sort of trigger or mechanism to get out the guy that's causing them not to make as much money. Every time one of these people talks, it's complete, I consider it treasonous. Every time a strong conservative president tells it like it is, you can't stomp your feet and say we need to drag him out. The 25th Amendment was ratified, and this is important, back in 1967. And it was dovetailing off of the assassination of JFK. The country needed clear rules for presidential succession and what happens if the commander-in-chief gets incapacitated physically or mentally and is unable to do the job. Now, there are 4 sections to the 25th Amendment. Section 1 and 2 are pretty easy. Number 1 is death. Doesn't count. Number 2 is resignation. He ain't going anywhere. Number 3 is if he were to die and then how to fill the vacancy. And also section number 3 also handles voluntary. I'm out, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. That's not where we are. Reagan in 1985 had a colonoscopy or something, and he used the 25th Amendment temporarily, abdicating to his vice president. George Bush did it twice for colonoscopies, and even Joe Biden, he kind of did it once or twice for health reasons. Temporary handoffs, no big deal. Comes back from the hospital, I'm in charge. Even when Biden did it, people thought Kamala wasn't going to give it back to him. She had to. But the one these clowns are hyperventilating over right now is Section 4. Section 4 is the big, bad, never been used before provision for when the president is allegedly, okay, I'm going to put this air quotes, unable to discharge the powers and duty of his office. Prove that. It doesn't say when he writes a mean tweet. It doesn't say if he were to blow up Iran. Because in that instance, he's still discharging the powers and duties of his office. You can't determine from an outside perspective the inability to discharge the powers and duties of his office just because you don't like what he tweeted. We could never go there. Can you imagine? Can you imagine every time you don't like what somebody said? 25th Amendment. That's not what it is. His powers and his duties give him everything available to him to do what he's doing right now. And obviously, he's able to discharge him. He can tell a plane, go there. He can tell a bomber, drop a bomb. So the inability has not been shown. You just don't like what the ability he's using. So here's how it would work, step by step, in case nobody's ever told you. And you're going to hear this and realize, why are they even talking about this? They're dreaming. It ain't ever going to happen. So here's how it would happen. J.D. Vance, the current vice president, and a majority of the principal officers of the executive department, the cabinet, the real cabinet secretaries, not acting ones, have to get together and send a written declaration to the president pro tempore of the Senate, which would be John Thune. And they also have to send a letter to Mike Johnson. And in that letter, they would have to say, you know, flat out, the president is cuckoo. He can't discharge his job. So that's vice president and over half of the cabinet. So we could stop right there. One, I don't foresee J.D. Vance doing anything. Nothing like that. Number two, good luck getting half the cabinet to do anything. Ain't gonna happen. And then Vice President Vance would become a president, acting president immediately. Trump would be out. Vance is in, and it would be just like that. By the way, if that were to happen, would there be anything different? So then, President Trump, in his defense and how he would fight back, he could send his own written declaration saying, nope, I'm good. Thank you very much. You can't do it. Then the vice president and the cabinet would have 4 days to send another letter saying, no, I think he's crazy. If they do that, then Congress has to drop everything they're working on, which doesn't seem like much, come together in 48 hours, even if they're not in session, and within 20 days total, both the House and the Senate have to vote 2/3 in concurrence. 2/3. These guys can't even agree what kind of color toilet paper to put in their bathroom, and you expect the 2/3 of the House and 2/3 of the Senate to get rid of Trump because they say he's crazy. That is never, ever, ever going to happen. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. No, let me save that because I want you to hear some more insanity.
This is why the 25th Amendment was written. It was ratified in 1967, authorizing the vice president and a majority of the cabinet to remove the president from power when and if that president is unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office. The 25th Amendment was written for the day when the Democratic leader of the United States Senate could credibly say, quote, the president is ranting like an unhinged madman.
It doesn't say that. It doesn't say he's acting crazy and he's saying stupid stuff we don't like. You just literally segued from unable to discharge his duties to Chuck Schumer saying he's acting like a madman.
As he said yesterday, it was impossible to imagine back when they wrote the 25th Amendment, it was impossible for them to imagine a day with the President of the United States ranting like an unhinged madman.
It was impossible when they wrote that to think there would be a day when the media would be an extension of the Democrat Party and you would be acting to impute socialism and communism in America. Nobody saw that coming either.
Until Donald Trump took the oath of office. The 25th Amendment was written for the day when a former Republican member of Congress who voted for that Republican president 3 times would declare to the world, he has gone insane.
I don't know if you can see that. Hold on. Look. He's quoting Marjorie Taylor Greene and saying that's a basis for, doing the 25th Amendment. Marjorie Taylor Greene said he's cuckoo, so we should do something about it.
The 25th Amendment was written for yesterday at 8:03 a.m. That's what Donald Trump delivered his Easter greeting to the world that included a promise to commit war crimes on Tuesday night. The 25th Amendment was...
Hold on. So you're sitting at home and you're watching this, And you just were told by an anchor on MS Now that the 25th Amendment was written because the president was going to commit war crimes. That's how stupid their audience is. That's why I'm doing this segment. So you know what the 25th Amendment was. Unable to discharge the duties of the office. Doesn't say you don't like what he said. Doesn't say that he might blow up bridges and some people may die. Doesn't say that. The very nature that he's actually executing some sort of order at 8 o'clock tells you specifically he's still able to execute orders. Maybe not ones you like, but this treasonous talk is now permeating everywhere.
For this. Most of you have seen this profane and perverse social media post. I am not going to read it, as is customary for such exhibits introduced.
You just showed it on national television and try to play clutch your pearls and say you won't read it. Everybody can see it. Everybody.
Produced on TV news programs because it is pure warmongering, filthy madness. We can put it back up on the full screen for anyone who hasn't read it to actually finish reading it right now. I will not use it as an opportunity for audiences to get to hear another anchorman using the dirty word.
I'm glad I did the Patton show last night because you're seeing a man who's not a man. The dirty word. Are you serious? There should be a 25th Amendment for people in the media because you're showing you're unable to discharge the duties of your office because you can't tell the truth.
I will not read Donald Trump's poison aloud because it is beneath my dignity, and that's not a phrase I use very often. And we should all be deeply concerned about living in a country where an anchorman's dignity, indeed the dignity of anyone anywhere in the country on any television show, is much, much higher than the dignity of the depraved president of the United States. But that is where we are tonight.
Wow, absolute craziness. But it's seeping out there like a poison. This entire ridiculous process that I just outlined to you, the 1, 2, 3, 4 sections of the 25th Amendment, none of them apply to President Trump. Understanding the 25th Amendment for removal has never, ever been invoked in American history. 250 years, and then, of course, since 1967. Never. Not once. Not during Watergate. Not during any scandal. Not even after January 6th, when the same crowd that you're hearing now was foaming at the mouth then. And there's a reason why, because it meant for real mental incapacity. Like a president in a coma, not because you don't like his tweets or his tough talk or his profanity on Easter, telling the mullahs, the same people who say death to America, where they can stick their threats. It's absolutely, to me, it's more bothersome that people in Congress are actually calling for this. I want to show you Chris Murphy. Chris Murphy said this: if I were in Trump's cabinet, but you're not, I would spend Easter calling constitutional lawyers about the 25th Amendment. This is completely, utterly unhinged. He's already killed thousands. He's going to kill thousands more. Now, on its face, that's untrue. But what's more important is it's still not a criteria for the 25th Amendment. He could write all the unhinged tweets he wants. There is no criteria that a guy can't say something even though he's a president. It doesn't mean he's incapacitated. And they're trying to tell people. In fact, I mean, you look at this post, it went to 3 million people have seen it. They're spreading this stuff everywhere. And then, of course, it keeps happening. I mean, who's the other one I have here? What's her name? Congresswoman Yasaman Anari. Trump woke up this morning, what'd you say? Threatening genocide against a country of 90 million people. We should be back in D.C. right now to stop this deranged madman from blowing up the world. Does this seem urgent to you, Speaker Johnson? How can you sleep at night? It's a tweet. We've had presidents that have done all kinds of crazy stuff. I can remember, I'm old enough where, you know, one president had an actress. Another president did some crazy stuff with cigars. Another president shipped $1.7 billion to the very same Iranians. He typed a tweet or true social post. It's absolutely crazy. And they're not even trying to hide the fact that this is what they want. This isn't about mental fitness. This is continued Trump derangement syndrome, but now it's on steroids. These are the same people who told us Biden was sharp as a tack. Over and over and over, while he was wandering off stage and into the woods and mumbling as he read teleprompters. Blah, 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 blah. Sharp as a tack. That's when you needed to discuss whether he could exercise the duties of the office. Why was he using an auto pen? Why does Trump keep saying that? Why did we never see him? What was going on? You're all quiet. The same media that covered for every Democrat failure now wants to stage a palace coup because Trump is winning. America is winning, and their globalist buddies are losing. It's very simple, and it just keeps happening. They are treating a strong warning to Iran. Right now, that's all it is. Even if you don't like what President Trump said, as of right now at 3:27, it's just a warning. I'm going to obliterate you. Nothing has happened. We don't see dead babies. We don't see dead women and civilians. Nothing has happened. Now, at 8:05, if you're seeing a whole bunch of dead babies, guess what? It still isn't mentally incapacitated because he knew what he was doing. I know that may scare some people. A bad decision, a wrong decision, a dangerous decision is still a competent decision. And then you can go back and do what you wanted to do before. Go ahead and impeach him. But you can't remove him because it was actually a decision that he's going to make. And I hope you guys understand the difference there. It was a wrong decision, shouldn't have done it. That's impeachment. He's out of his mind. He's in there smoking coke. Got a pipe. That's a problem. Then we got to do 25th Amendment. We don't have the criteria for the 25th Amendment, and you can't say he lost his mind because he sent a bad tweet. These are the same networks that spent years calling Trump Hitler, Nazi, fascist, and now they want to invoke the 25th Amendment over tough talk? If you really felt he was Hitler, why didn't you do it back then? Because if he was Hitler, then you would have the proof to say he's mentally incapacitated. He can't do the job. You understand how they're doing all this and why they're doing all of this right now? He's not a deranged lunatic. You can't demand the 25th Amendment just because you don't like what he said. But that's not what they're really doing. He's not a national security threat. What you're seeing happen is because they're jockeying for 2026, all of them. They were praying and hoping to whatever God they pray to that President Trump had made a mistake and that those pilots were going to die. They wanted that. They're looking for the reason to propel them in 2026. Trump knows that. Trump absolutely knows that. Now, what would happen if they even tried this? Well, I don't think J.D. Vance would go along with it. President Trump won 2024 election in a Republican mandate, in the biggest mandate, I think, in modern history. His support among real Americans like you and me, who built this country, who work hard, who pay taxes, and love this nation, is rock solid. They keep trying to tell us that his support is waning. It's not. So you go ahead and try to 25th him out of office over a social media post or some sort of tough, threatening policy. Go ahead and try that. You're not removing a president. You'll be igniting a firestorm of divisiveness this country has never seen. This would make January 6th look like a cupcake party. We're not going to stick for it. We're not going to stand it. It's not going to happen. We've been watching this two-tier justice stuff over and over and over. Do you really think 70, 80 million people would just sit there and take it if you took President Trump out of office? You got another thing coming, as Judas Priest said. It wouldn't be like mass protests in every state. It would be a lot bigger than that. People would shut down the economy. Truckers would stop driving. The economy would come to a standstill. Can you imagine how many people would descend upon Washington? Now, here's where it gets really, really important. I wanted to wait till the end to tell you this. What do you think the military would do? What do you think Pete Hegseth and General Raising Cane and the military would do if it came to that? We've all been talking the military is the only way. Many of us have heard that for quite some time. What these goons don't understand is they're playing right into his hands. The idiots from the InfoWars podcast on the right, and Tucker and Candace, all you guys are doing is playing into his hands. You're going to shatter the American psyche forever. The left, they don't care. They just want to nullify the election. They just want to move on to 2026 and use this as a cudgel to continue with their globalist, socialist, communist agenda. But this would be an explosion that would tear this country apart at the seams. Half of America would see it for exactly what it is. And this is what you have to realize. It is a deep state, media-enabled coup against the people's choice. I want to show you something. It just happened to come on right now. This idiot Ro Khanna is on Fox, being enabled by Fox. Which button?
Should we go and declare war against Putin? Should we go and declare war against every dictatorship? What we should have done is had tough diplomacy that would have actually gotten rid of the enriched uranium.
How has that worked so far? How has that worked so far?
Well, it was working until Trump ripped up the deals. And the reality is, Martha, do you really believe that Iran was going to threaten New York or the American homeland? They didn't have an ICBM.
I'll tell you what I believe. I believe they already killed 1,500 of our American soldiers.
They've killed 13 more because of Donald Trump's decision.
They killed 200 in a Marine barracks in Lebanon. I don't need any more evidence evidence that they want to threaten? They also march in the streets, say death to America. What more evidence do you need?
You're fairly reasonable. Do you believe that it was not insulting and in violation of everything we believe in to threaten to wipe out 91 million Americans? Would Ronald Reagan have ever done that? Would any other American president have ever threatened to wipe out 91 million people? I don't think Reagan did that.
He said Americans. It wasn't Americans, idiot.
When we were fighting Nazism.
What I'm looking at is...
No, but answer that question, Martha. Would FDR have said, let's just wipe out the German people?
I can easily answer your question. I mean, we know who tried to actually wipe out entire populations in World War II.
Yes,
we
Hitler.
know the kind of backbone and spine that it took on the part of the United States of America to end those tyrannies.
With morality.
But what I'm seeing is someone who is
Donald Trump has no morality.
I think you have to... I'm kind of surprised, actually, that people haven't... that you don't get how the language works.
I get it if he's a real estate dealer. I don't get it when you're president of the United States with the inheritance
but you're
of people
more concerned
who
about
scaled
the
cliffs of
language
Normandy
than the outcome.
No, I'm concerned about our values. I'm concerned that no American president would have done this. Do you think Ronald Reagan would have used this language?
No,
Do you
because
think
Ronald
FDR?
Reagan isn't President
Do you
Trump.
think Abraham
President
Lincoln
Trump
would
isn't
have?
FDR.
Do you
Abraham
think George
Lincoln.
Washington would have? Do you think he said, let's wipe out the British people? Donald Trump has compromised every moral standing we have as a nation. What makes America different?
So you like the language of President Biden on this, of President Obama on this, who tried to make deals, who had negotiations.
Of every other American president.
Nothing changed.
Of every other American president.
And you talk to Iranian people in this country who are wanting to have this
regime
overthrown.
First of all, that's not true, Martha. Obama got 97% of the enriched uranium out. Then Trump came in and he ripped...
chest of Iran.
That is not true. That is they unfroze
30 billion. 30 billion.
They
excuse me.
unfroze the assets.
Exactly.
But that was not
that worked
money.
out well,
that was
right?
not U.S. taxpayer money. But the point is, what did Trump achieve? 97% of enriched uranium was gone. Then Trump comes in, he rips it up. 60% enriched uranium in Iran.
4 weeks.
Well, he's gotten the price of gas up. He's put our troops at risk. 13 Americans
I don't know.
have lost
You
their
may
lives.
end up.
And we've now threatening to wipe out a nation, which makes us no different than every other country. What makes us different is when we go to war, we care about civilians. When we go to war, we care about.
Do you care about the 40,000 people who were killed in the street by this regime?
Yes, I called that out. I called that out when it was happening.
What does calling it out do?
Well, what calling it out does is that what we needed to do is to have a negotiation and tough diplomacy with sanctions to get them not to have nuclear weapons. But
you did all that. Then they killed 40,000 people.
But here's the thing. American people are tired of going and being the world's policeman and thinking that we're going to go take out every evil regime. We did that with Libya. It didn't work. We did that with Saddam Hussein. It didn't work. And guess who campaigned against that? Donald Trump. He said, I'm going to care about jobs here. I'm going to care about child care here. I'm going to care about manufacturing here. And now he's asking for $400 billion to go fight a war in Iran. Now he's putting our troops at risk in Iran. You know what I want the American president to do? To care about our people, to care about our jobs, our child care, our health care. He has, I don't know who's gotten in his head.
All right. Well, we have breaking news. We've had 4 weeks of this versus 47 years of what hasn't worked so far. And I appreciate the fact that you don't like the language around it. We're going to watch actual action and see what happens. We'll see what the outcome is. But I thank you very much for being here. It's an American debate that's clearly going on in the country, and I thank you for coming by.
Appreciate having me.
Thank you, Congressman. We do have some breaking news now that I want to get to you. We are reaching out to the White House for reaction to this new statement from Pakistan's prime minister. They've been involved in the efforts that the Trump administration has been very involved in trying to reach some diplomatic efforts here. So they are saying diplomatic efforts for peaceful settlement of the ongoing war in the Middle East are progressing steadily, strongly, and powerfully, with the potential to lead to substantial results in the near future to allow diplomacy to run its course. I earnestly request President Trump to extend the deadline for 2 weeks. Pakistan, in all sincerity, requests the Iranian brothers to open the Strait of Hormuz for a corresponding period of 2 weeks as a goodwill gesture. We also urge all warring parties to observe a ceasefire everywhere for 2 weeks to allow diplomacy to achieve conclusive termination of the war in the interest of the long-term peace and stability in the region. We know that...
All right, so if they do that, all right, as you watch where the puck is going, if President Trump comes out at 8 o'clock and says the Pakistanis have negotiated an opening of the Strait of Hormuz, and we're going to just stand down. Nobody's shooting, nobody bombing. Open the strait. What's going to happen? Money. So we'll see what happens. But in any event, that idiot that all the Democrats are doing, what they're trying to do at this point is to give themselves and arm themselves for 2026. They don't care about American soldiers. How do we know this? Because you lost them all in Benghazi, and then you got 14 of them killed in Afghanistan, and you didn't even want to talk about it. So now you want to execute some sort of coup. And you've got people on the right who are also a part of this coup, who are openly talking about treason, who have no problem making a video and saying, put a bag over his head and drag him out. All of this is because of one thing, and I want to make sure everybody knows it. It means we're winning, not just the war. When your objective is at this point, we are back to the days of the impeachment and everything else, when you had to kneecap your opponent, when you had to go full Tanya Harding because you're losing. Anything you can do at this point to just get them out of there is better than trying to fight your way and offer the American people something. And it disgusts me because we're seeing it on the left and we're seeing it in some people on the right. No messaging whatsoever about what will make your life better. That's how you know they're full of crap. It would be one thing if they say, well, we could do this, and when we do this, here's what we would do with the American people. Nope. That's why I showed this guy. That's why I listened to what Democrats say. What would you do different? We're a year plus into President Trump's second term. Are the Democrats saying anything about how they would make your life better? Nope. Not a single one. None of them. The Panicans, are they saying how they could foresee your life being better? Nope. That tells you right there, it's all about power and money. One side wants power, the other side is losing money. Their clicks aren't working anymore. I can tell you with complete certainty, their clicks aren't working anymore. You see, as an advertiser, if you watch television and you see an ad running on television, if you see that ad frequently running, it means that the advertiser, like this one here is CarShield, is running right now, they're seeing some sort of return from the ad. You can't make any money if you don't have advertisers. And you can't have advertisers if it doesn't convert. And if it doesn't convert, the other ones know it doesn't convert. So when you see back in the day when My Pillow would always be on Fox, he was making money. People were buying the pillow. That's why drug companies, they don't care about making money. It's all just image, just trying to get it out there. So when you're looking at these people on the right at this point, and you want to know for sure what's going on, look at their advertisers. Look at who, I mean, you can look at a description and you can see if they've got sponsors or advertisers. No sponsors, no advertisers, no money. The left wants power. The ones on the right want money. There's nobody who's making videos on a daily basis who's doing it for free. I could be on it. Well, I can't go on a golf course today. It's pouring. But there's so many other things people could be doing. There's so many other things that Fox News talking heads could be doing. They're only doing it because they've got big salaries. And when they can't continue to get people to do things, they get shifted out, like Joy Reid, like Don Lemon, because they weren't driving eyeballs. And then you get people who do certain things to make it look like they have eyeballs, but it's very, very simple way to define what I'm telling you. If you go in the bottom of this video right now, there's going to be 2 or 3 different links from people who are sponsoring my show. What I want you to do is go look at some of these people on YouTube and see if there's anything there. Nope. And so they know at this point they got to do something. And so they're going to participate in the coup because the audience that they cultivated no longer is doing anything, or they've cultivated a fake audience or a foreign audience. If you're talking about Iran and Qatar and all these different, you're not getting Americans. And people from other countries, they're not the consumers advertisers want. So I wanted to prove to you that these people, because everybody thinks they're all making a whole bunch of money. No, they're not making any money. X monetization is good, but it's not going to sustain an entire company. You got to have multiple distribution points and multiple sponsors and advertisers, and these people are losing it. And they're trying to keep coming back with everything. So they're aligning themselves with the Democrats. At least maybe I can get some American eyeballs if I go against what Trump's doing. Maybe I can get some people who actually will watch my crazy stuff by saying, I want to put a bag over Trump's head and drag him out. It's disgusting. It's whorish. You might as well be Bonnie Blue. You might as well just go ahead and sleep with 1,000 people because you're whoring yourself out at that point. I can't possibly think that some of the stuff that Tucker is saying and some of the stuff that Candace is saying, I don't speak about it much, but I can't possibly think they believe that they really feel that way. I would never look to tear down Erica Kirk. I would never do it. I don't even have it in me. Why are these people acting this way? Like, I don't care if my numbers go down. I don't care if subscribers go down. I don't want to compromise myself just because the money means more than anything else. You know, I talk a lot about prosperity, but I'll never tell you to chase prosperity against your values. I'll never tell you to chase prosperity by just openly lying to people. And right now, I'm seeing, I cannot believe I saw them say, go in and pull him out. And he said the words coup. Man, I don't need money that bad to compromise my own principles. And I would have to apologize to every single one of you if I said something like that. It's insane. So this 25th Amendment talk is meant to talk to idiots. Tonight when we convene at 8 o'clock, I don't know what I'm going to do. I know I've got some stuff in the can here, but I want to talk to you about some of these idiots. I had posted this earlier, and it really got to me today. It's like, I just realized that social media has allowed the kind of people who rode on the little yellow school bus to freely interact with those of us who avoided those idiots all our lives. And that's what I see happening. These are people who are inviting the uncool kids to their lunch table when they never would have talked to them before. Never wanted to be around them. I'm gonna go into detail in that tonight with you. I'm just sick and tired beyond what you can possibly imagine of people just continuing to gaslight, to lie, obfuscate, not tell the truth, even like you just saw with that guy on Fox News. You could tell that Martha she had it. You're lying. And you're willing to prostitute yourself for what? Some votes? Everything you're seeing happen right now, I will continue to tell you what I feel. I feel they know they're losing and they're trying everything they can do to overcome that. Because winning feels good. You don't get mad when you're winning.
We're going to win so much, you may even get tired of winning. And you'll say, please, please, it's too much winning. We can't take it anymore. Mr. President, it's too much. And I'll say, no, it isn't. We have to keep winning. We have to win more. We're going to win more.
And that is like so true. Because as you see these people talking about 25th Amendment and all this stuff, it means we're winning. I've never wanted to go to a game and play somebody where I was hoping that they got hurt and didn't come out the locker room. That's not competition. That's pity. That's charity. I want to beat you. And if you beat me, salute. This isn't what they want. They want to take their competition off the field. The only people who want to remove their competition are losers. And I'm saying it from my heart. I never want anybody to be disqualified. In fact, I remember when a kid got disqualified because whatever, his grades weren't there or whatever. I was bummed. I was like, man, I was looking forward to this. Winners don't hide from competition. Winners don't shy away when things get bad. You know the whole saying, the tough goings get tough, the tough get going. Not with the Democrats and the Panicans. Not at all. They just want you off the field. Get out the way. That's sick. That's sick. I don't know if is SV still here. You there, man? What you got? Anything?
Of course. I'm always here. 24/7. Do you know what the ghost murmur tech is? Have you heard about that? From the
What's
CIA?
that? From who?
Really?
CIA?
Okay.
Who's it? CIA?
Yeah, okay. So Trump earlier had thanked the CIA in one of his little briefings about CIA using the never before seen ghost murmur heartbeat tech to pull the airmen out. And the way it works, it's very interesting. It's highly classified, but it's able to detect a living person's heartbeat from long range. But this is how it works in simple terms. It uses long range quantum telemetry to pick up the extremely faint electromagnetic signature produced by a human heartbeat.
Wow.
And the data is fed into AI software, which filters out all the background noise. So basically it isolates the heartbeat like a fingerprint.
Wow. Wow.
I didn't even know we had that. They could find anybody. Very interesting.
With what you just said, now does it start to make sense to people why President Trump says we have to win the AI race? I mean, that is some really. Imagine this guy climbs up a mountain 7,000 feet in the air. He's stuck in a little hole. And as he's stuck there, they've got, what do you call it? The heartbeat thingy that they can do. Oh, wow.
The ghost murmur. Ghost murmur, right.
Now, I also wonder.
I do.
Good.
Good. No, good.
I also wonder if they can place a heartbeat someplace else. Meaning if the Iranians or the bad guys are looking to see if there's any form of life, they can make a heartbeat show up someplace else.
Right, misdirection. I'm sure.
Yeah.
I mean, you've been talking about it. You know, there's so much of it. Media. You know, what they did to rescue the guy. I mean, I just read this and I thought this was fantastic. I mean, so between that and the discombobulator and all these other tools they may have in their bag, it's going to get interesting. But breaking literally 4 minutes ago, this just came out. Iran reportedly launches simultaneous missile attacks on Qatar, UAE, Bahrain, and Kuwait. This is the first time they launched such an attack. Looks like it's their way of sending a warning to Trump as the deadline looms. So they obviously still have the way to send missiles out. So that's a little concerning.
Well, they just reported that, quote, the White House is aware of Pakistan's proposal. So doesn't know what that means. It's going on 4 o'clock. So the window is closing very, very quickly. All right. So I want to close out today. JD Vance, in addition, hold on, what's this? Oh, hold on. What is this going on? This is live. Wait 1 second.
Has already changed to a certain extent. With that, we bring in Will Kane, who is on deck That's what we call a tease. There's Will Kane, but you got to stick around until after we take a quick break to hear what Will thinks about all this.
So that was I thought the lower third said something about Trump was saying something, but it was BS.
Okay.
In closing, what I want to do is I want to show everybody this speech that J.D. Vance made earlier, in his second appearance. The first appearance was a press conference. The second appearance, thanks, SV.
All right, see you later.
Yeah, and the second appearance was this speech he made. So I'm going to play the speech, and hopefully you guys enjoy it. But if you got to leave, at least wait for the first 5 minutes, because it's pretty cool what happens. And then remember, as you see him on stage, this is in Hungary.
Thank you. Wow. So before I started my remarks, I actually had a special guest that asked that I give him a phone call, and we'll see. Let's hope he actually answers. So this is going to be very embarrassing. All right.
I'm sorry, the person you were trying to reach has a voicemail box that has not been set up yet.
Okay. Try one more time. I get a good signal here. It's ringing. It's progress. Hello, Mr. President. How are you? Mr. President, you are on with about 5,000 Hungarian patriots, and I think they love you even more than they love Viktor Orban.
Well, I can't believe that. I can't believe that, because I love Hungary and I love that Viktor. I'll tell you, he's a fantastic man. We've had a tremendous relationship, and he does a job. Remember this, he didn't allow people to storm your country and invade your country like other people have and ruin their countries, frankly. He's kept your country good. He's kept Hungarian people in your country. And he's done a fantastic job. And let me tell you, I like him a lot, but if I didn't think he did a good job, I wouldn't be making a call like this. But boy, that sounds like a big crowd, and that sounds like my kind of people.
Now understand, that's a Hungarian crowd cheering for President Trump. That's not in Washington or Detroit or Iowa. He's in Hungary, and these people are going nuts.
What a crowd. JD must have made a very good speech to get this kind of a response. I guess. How did JD do? Did he give a good speech, everybody?
It's very early, sir.
It's early. Okay, well, I just want to tell you, I'm a big fan of Viktor. I'm with him all the way. The United States is with him all the way. And it's a real honor to talk to you. You're really incredible people with great enthusiasm and brilliance, because you're brilliant people. And I really love it. You have a man that kept your country strong, and he kept your country good. And you don't have problems with all of the problems that so many other countries have, because they let their countries be invaded. And you don't have that problem because of Viktor Orban. That's the only reason you don't have that problem. There was a lot of pressure on him to do it, and those other countries made big mistakes. So I wish you a lot of luck, and I love you all.
Thank you, Mr. President. That's obviously a tough act to follow, but I'm going to do my best because we have got to get Viktor Orban reelected as Prime Minister of Hungary, don't we? Now, this is actually my second trip to Budapest, but the first as a public official. Then I was younger and less gray, and my wife, our beautiful second lady, was pregnant with our second child. Now we're back in Budapest. I'm the vice president, and she's pregnant with our fourth. And during our official meeting with the Prime Minister, I asked him today whether we could benefit from some of those generous family subsidies. But he said, unfortunately, Mr. Vice President, they're only for Hungarians. Now, we have had a whirlwind of a trip already, but I find myself thinking the same things on this visit that I did during our brief vacation here as a private citizen a few years ago. Budapest is a beautiful place. It was built by people, your ancestors, who used its beautiful architecture and landscape to lift up the human spirit. And it's an honor to visit as relations between America and Hungary have reached new heights. An exciting era of new ties on everything ranging from energy security to business and trade cooperation to closer cultural bonds. So I want to say, my friends, thank you. Thank you for hosting me, and thank you for being a great friend of the United States of America. This evening, I wish to address every man and woman in Hungary, young and old, citizens of every region, of every age, and of every background. I want to speak to the mothers and fathers of Hungary, to the grandparents who recall the dark days of communism and those first lights of freedom, to the hardworking families who strive to give their children happy and healthy lives, to the young men and young women who seek to start families and careers themselves, and to everyone in this audience specifically, the young, bright, patriotic Hungarians who care passionately about this strong nation and its future. I am here for a simple reason, because I admire what you are fighting for. You're fighting for your freedom, you're fighting for your sovereignty, and I am here because President Trump and I wish for your success, and we are fighting right here with you. We want no more and we ask no more than to be allies against those who seek to push Hungary down. And you have drawn the attention of the American people, really people all across the world, because Hungary has been on the front lines of such foes. In 2016, when the rest of Europe threw open its gates, you said no. When strange activists came to tell you to erase your heritage, you said no. And when a war erupted in your neighborhood, you were kind and generous. You opened your neighborhoods, your homes, and your hospitals. But you never forgot the needs of your own people and why, to Hungary, Hungarians must always come first. And for all these reasons, the President of the United States, the Vice President of the United States, and the American people, we admire you. And we want you to make a decision about your future with no outside forces pressuring you or telling you what to do. I'm not telling you exactly who to vote for. But what I am telling you is that the bureaucrats in Brussels, those people should not be listened to. Listen to your hearts, listen to your souls, and listen to the sovereignty of the Hungarian people. Unlike some of the leadership of Brussels, I'm not threatening you or telling you that we're going to withhold funds to which you're legally entitled. You will make the decision about Hungary's future, just as my fellow Americans will make the decision about America's future. So I come here not in the spirit of telling you what to do, I come here in the spirit of friendship, to offer a few observations about our shared civilization and how we can advance it together. You have advanced that civilization boldly in recent years, and you have done so with Viktor Orban at the helm of a proud Hungarian nation. But boldness, we know this, boldness attracts naysayers. And that is something I want to talk about for a bit. A shared threat from within that both of our nations face. I speak, of course, of a far-left ideology given quarter in university circles, in the media, and in our entertainment industry, and increasingly among bureaucrats on both sides of the Atlantic. Now, its followers don't see Western society as flawed, yet worthy of reform. Instead, they view the very foundations of our shared civilization as illegitimate. In Western history, they don't see a proud tradition, they see only injustice. In our borders, they see exclusion and racism. In Christianity, they see not liberation, but oppression. And in the family, they see constraint. Their most radical members, of course, tear down monuments to our national heroes or throw buckets of fake blood on precious artworks in museums. They stage assassinations of law enforcement officers. They set fire to churches. They declare they're never going to have kids lest they increase their carbon footprint. But we, of course, we see something different, my friends. We defend our borders because we know that it's the most vulnerable among us who suffer when our streets are given over to chaos and violence. Some of them call themselves feminists, pretending they care about women. Yet it is their policies that have seen an explosion of migrant crime and sexual assault against the very women they claim to protect. We believe in energy security because we don't want the least of us to be unable to afford to heat their homes or to drive themselves to work. They say they care a lot about corruption. They take it very seriously. But they turn a blind eye to the corruption of Brussels, which has seen bureaucrats become millionaires by threatening and cajoling the sovereignty of the people across this beautiful continent. Now, you all know this, much has been made about our administration. The European press asks constantly, do Trump and Vance, do they have something against Europe? Let me be clear, we love Europe. We love it. How can we not? We were birthed from this continent, the United States of America. We love its people. We love its culture, we love its beautiful architecture, and we love the amazing history of this continent. But because Because we love this culture and these peoples, we reject the faceless bureaucrats who would drive your energy costs through the roof and open your country to millions of unvetted foreigners in the name of progress. And in Hungary, I actually see real progress under a man named Viktor Orban. I see a trading partner who will bring in record investment from the United States of America. We've invested more in Hungary than we ever have in our history. I see clean streets where people of different faiths and tourists of all nationalities can enjoy a drink or a nice walk in safety and security. I see a government that invests in its own people, in promoting families, creating good jobs, and building an education system that teaches love of country rather than hatred of civilization. And most of all, my friends, because I'm the Vice President of the United States, I see what the bureaucrats hide from many of you. Energy costs are higher in almost every country in Europe than they are in Hungary. That's because Viktor Orban has fought for energy security while most European political leaders have not. I see the way those same leaders sneer at the normal, God-fearing people of Hungary. I see how they call the people of Hungary and America backwards for wanting cheap electricity bills. I see the way they look down on peacemakers like Viktor, a man who has done more than any leader in Europe to bring about a successful resolution to the war between Russia and Ukraine. I see the way they look down at, they scoff at European and American peoples who want job security and control of migration. And most of all, I see that those who hate Europe the most, who hate its borders, its energy independence, the people who hate its Christian heritage, they hate one man above all others, and his name is Viktor Orban. And if they hate him, it means he's on your side. And to them, I'm going to say the reason you hate Viktor is because he is for the people of Hungary. And I stand here today because President Trump and I stand with Europe. We stand for sovereignty. We stand for Hungary. And we stand shoulder to shoulder with the man who has done more to defend those values than anyone else, Viktor Orban. You know, the leaders of this country, perhaps more so than any other across Europe, understand that Western civilization, so despised by the left, it's not something that's self-sustaining. We can't sit on our hands and expect that everything is going to be fine. Our civilization, we've got to work at it. We've got to renew it. We've got to defend it. The people in this room understand that sovereignty and national identity are not problems, they are a necessary part of the solution. And when one country protects its sovereignty, even a country of 10 million people in the heart of Europe, it raises uncomfortable questions for those who insist there is no alternative. There is an alternative, and it's right here in Hungary. Think about this. If Hungary can secure its own borders, others can do the same thing. And if they do not, if they fail to control migration, that is by choice. If Hungary can place its own workers first, there's no reason that its neighbors can't do the same. And when they do not, that too is a choice. Victor and this entire political leadership, they become a target of the bureaucrats because he shows that real sovereignty is possible. He shows you can be pro-Europe, you can be pro-America, and you can be pro your own people, and he's showing it in spades. And you all know this, but we're not just protecting our own people, the citizens of our respective countries. We're protecting the ideas that allowed those people to flourish for hundreds and sometimes thousands of years. We just celebrated Easter, of course, all of us. And for 2,000 years, our civilization has been shaped above all and beyond all by the sacrificial love of Jesus Christ. Built upon the laws of Moses and the laws of Rome, and that society has produced not oppression, but the most free, tolerant, and prosperous societies in the history of humanity. Concepts like God-given natural rights, a sense of duty to one's neighbors, an obligation to protect the weak and the vulnerable, a belief in free will and individual conscience. No set of ideas has brought mankind closer to universal human dignity and flourishing. From those principles that founded our civilization, everything else flows. The way we pray, the way we form and raise our families, our sense of law and order, and the way we dispense justice. These are truths rooted in Scripture, but let's be honest, not every society shares them. Because our civilization, while I believe it's universally true, it has not been universally adopted. It is not the default state of human existence. The greatness of London or Munich or a picturesque village on Lake Balaton, it's easier to take for granted when it's the world you already live in. But that world didn't spring from nowhere. It had to be built. Every brick of that beautiful Parliament building here, every span of bridge across the Danube, every law, every custom, all belong to work of generations built over time. But what's been built over generations can be undone in a single lifespan. That means that what our ancestors built, we're proud of it, and we love them, we must protect. I think this audience, this group of people, uniquely understands the stakes. Because the story of Hungary, I saw this when I was here a few years ago, I've seen it again today, is of a people who have repeatedly prevailed over those who would erase their sovereignty. And in that process, those people tried to erase what makes Hungary so special to begin with. Now, most recently, of course, that came in the form of communism, a lie that took the noble pursuit of equality and claimed it could be enforced by gunpoint. That's no coincidence, and you all know this better than I do, that once in power, the communists in Hungary set about dismantling every institution that gave this great nation its character. They shuttered churches. They rewrote history. They framed 1848 not as a national revolution, but as a mere prelude to a Marxist struggle. And they didn't do it all at once. They did it piece by piece. What they themselves called slicing the salami, removing one by one the institutions that anchored Hungarian life. But ultimately, thanks be to God, the spirit of King St. Stephen prevailed in this nation. And today what I'm asking is very simple. I want us all to renew that spirit together. For again, we see sovereignty challenged in Hungary. Again, we see faceless bureaucrats in faraway countries telling you how to live, how to pray, how to speak, and how to govern yourselves. But you have a choice. Do you bend the knee to tyranny, or do you proudly stand with St. Stephen and choose a real leader this weekend?
Chanting encore.
We're talking about a leader who feels real pride in this place, in its history, in its culture, and in its way of life. A leader who will fight to preserve those things while also building a better future. Because the real divide in our time it's much more fundamental than partisan labels or specific policies. It's fundamentally between those who believe in the future and those who do not. Across the West, we've got a small band of radicals, people who do not believe in the future and are often the very people who so wish to govern us. It's kind of weird. If they don't believe in the future, why do they want a life in politics? Yet they speak not of renewal for our nations, but management. They're not trying to build a great future, they're trying to manage the decline of the greatest civilization in the world. Some of them say things like, human beings are no more than pollution upon the earth. They look at our cultures and our borders, they look at the very idea of a nation and ask how we can get rid of them. Every position, I believe, flows from this fundamental error. They reject mothers and motherhood, fathers and fatherhood in the name of liberation. They condemn children to mutilization and sterilization in the name of gender care. And they practice institutional murder in the name of, quote, end of life planning. And if you dare speak up about it, they will fight using the modern tools of social media to silence you through censorship. We understand that we have a sacred duty to protect life, to defend the value of our people's hard work, to invest in our workers, our families, and our industry. And to make it easier to build a life that is affordable for all of our citizens. We are committed to our future because we are committed to the very idea of our people. We're committed to the idea of life itself because it is a gift from God and we never forget it. Now that's why I'm here. That's why I'm here, ladies and gentlemen. That's why President Trump sent me to stand here with Victor today, something I'm very proud to do. Because I believe our nations are incredibly capable of greatness when we come together. Our work is not zero-sum. Indeed, it cannot be, because our goal is always to build a better life for our people. These bureaucrats, they've given us a false choice. Think about this. They tell us that the options are between isolation and globalist integration. They have framed their project as the inevitable future, even as their very institutions stagnate and crumble. But we know there's a better way. Cooperation between countries with shared values and parallel destinies. That is the story of Hungary and America, and we're going to keep fighting for it. A lot of you may not know this, but this is the story of a much longer Hungarian-American friendship. When my own country sought its independence 250 years ago, almost to the month, It was a Hungarian soldier by the name of Michael Kovács who helped found the first American cavalry units, ultimately giving his life in our struggle for independence against the British Empire. A generation later, Americans welcomed Louis Kossuth, the hero of 1848 and the father of Hungarian democracy. Now, Kossuth was greeted in the United States like a rock star, much better than a politician. His arrival in the more general cause of Hungarian independence, it captured the imagination of our young nation. He received the distinction, the second foreigner ever in our nation's history after Lafayette to address a joint meeting of Congress. And his bust stands in the United States Capitol to this very day. Now, during that trip, I didn't realize this until a few days ago, that during that trip to the United States, Kossuth visited my home state of Ohio to make his case for Hungarian independence. We have some Ohio fans over here. That's good. Before the state legislature in Columbus, Ohio, he declared, quote, "The spirit of our age is democracy. All for the people and all by the people. Nothing about the people without the people. My nation." He went on, "My nation will rise, called to resurrection by the eternal principles of the law of nature and of nature's God." Even then, this great Hungarian patriot was aware of the intimate link between sovereignty, between self-government, and between our divine creator. And I'm proud to say that according to the history books, the part of the country that gave him the proudest reception and the biggest reception during his entire time in America was my hometown of Cincinnati, Ohio. You have to imagine this, and you tell these stories and you think, how can the bureaucrats think that we're not capable of self-government and choosing our own destiny? Because when Kossuth came to Cincinnati during his tour of Ohio, there were railroad tracks lined with citizens, delighted to behold Hungary's great freedom fighter. Reportedly, 100,000 of them showed up just at his one stop in my hometown. And the affection, I gotta say, I'm a little biased here, the affection was mutual. The people of Cincinnati, Kossuth said, quote, "changed a wilderness of primitive forests into an immense city, of which there exists a prediction that by the year of our Lord 2000, it will be the greatest city in the world." And no offense to Budapest, but I think he's right about that. But it tells you something very real, that when Kossuth looked at the United States of America, he didn't see something radically different. He saw something familiar. In our nation, he recognized the same forces at work that were shaping Hungary. People building something of their own, out of wilderness, with purpose, conviction, and a deep belief in where they came from and what they were called to do. And standing in Cincinnati, he saw something in America that he believed was just the beginning. The West, he exclaimed. There you can see the cradle of a newborn humanity. It was true then, and it's still true today. But America, like Hungary, was not a place just of rest. It was built around the idea of creating and renewing. And those early Americans, like the heroes of your own nation, took that inheritance and they shaped it into their own. They added to it. They fortified it. They passed it down to their children and to their grandchildren, who then did the same, with the expectation that generations later, those grandchildren would carry it forward. On his fateful trip to America, Kossuth announced that Hungary was to become, and this is perhaps my favorite quote, the cornerstone of national independence on the European continent. This guy was a prophet. Kossuth called this the cornerstone of independence, the cornerstone of sovereignty on the European continent, and though he didn't live to see it become so, I declare that prophecy is true today in 2026. Now, under Viktor Orban's leadership, you have held on to the civilizational goods that make a country worth living in the first place. Sovereignty, prosperity, history, a sense of national community, the redemptive nature of bringing new life and new families into the world. This is an awesome and difficult responsibility, because across much of the West, there's a growing uncertainty about whether these things matter or whether they're worth fighting for. But not here. You have stood up to the bureaucrats. You have stood up to the nihilists. And now I wonder, will you do it again? Will you stand against the bureaucrats in Brussels? Will you stand for sovereignty and democracy? Will you stand for Western civilization? Will you stand for freedom, for truth, and for the God of our fathers? Then, my friends, go to the polls in the weekend, stand with Viktor Orban, because he stands for you and he stands for all these things. God bless Hungary and God bless the United States of America. Thank
you. That was one fiery speech. I didn't expect that. Pushing Viktor Orban so strongly. So it must mean a lot to the Trump administration. Probably a lot in terms of how they view what kind of policy they're going to be having with countries over there. So can't believe in the middle of the war, he's over there. All right, so just to let you guys know, it is 4:30 as of right now. President Trump has acknowledged that he's aware of what's going on in Pakistan with the negotiations, but as of right now has not said he's called off any strikes or anything. I checked Pete Hegseth, nothing, no information. So that being said, if President Trump calls off the festivities for tonight, then I won't be doing a show. But if he doesn't call off, yeah, we're going to go live probably about 7:45 and do a countdown to 8 o'clock and see what happens. I've got a lot of feeds that are basically just looking at the sky in Israel and looking at the sky in Iran. So we'll see if anything happens. I don't want to be like morbid about it, but I'm sure every news channel will be glued to see what is actually happening, if anything. Maybe at 7:55 he calls it off. I don't know, but we'll see. In any event, let me go ahead and get home and drink some tea, do some super chats real quick here. Barry, maybe the bridges and power plants is a psyop to move people there and get the other targets. Very, very well could be. Very well could be. JD is still my pick for 2028. I don't see that changing unless DJT decides that he needs 4 more years. That would be funny. Danny. Danny. I always tell my husband to keep an ace up your sleeve. When does President Trump ever say what he will exactly do and then doesn't have another plan? Exactly. Making bacon. I've got a 6-pack and a bucket of buffalo wings, and my butt ain't moving from this recliner. Oh, that should be fun tonight. Club, thank you very for always being a measured voice in the craziness, even though that measured voice is feeling kind of weird right now. Chiosop, hopefully shutting off power will stop anything they are doing in the caves and underground. Is Susan Rice and Obama will say, I hate the fact that Democrats just hate America. Chiosop, does deep state trying to activate worldwide? Yes, what they're doing. And they're trying to find some place they can hold on to, especially for the money. Nikki says, in my opinion, Trump said all this on purpose to get these loons flying off the handle. While they're freaking out, he can handle business in a way that's not what they expected, and they end up with egg on their face. Understand, at 8:01, if nothing happens, they will switch. Let me just stop that. They will switch from saying he's crazy to saying he's a coward and full of crap. Count on it. 8:01, 8:02, they don't see big booms. They're going to go to plan B, which is, what do they call it? Taco. That's what they keep calling Trump. So, but you'll see it. It'll definitely be that way. Humphrey, thank you. Texas kid, the smartest president in the world, already took care of the bridges problem. Military supplies cannot be transported while women and children protect the bridges. Good point. Very good point. Nothing can go across those bridges while they've got all those people on them. That is a very good point. Great idea. I didn't even think that. David Huff, at this point, they are openly calling for insurrection, which comes very close to not if crossing into treason. Insurrection is probably actually minimal to what they said. They actually said, if you go back and watch the video, he said, we need to do a coup. He used the word coup in his statement. Lele, I keep saying these people are nuts. Our President Trump is living in their heads rent-free. It's sad. You can't fix crazy. And Lula, Barry, why has he not invoked the Insurrection Act? Let me talk about that in a second. And back broad, no more delays. Take care, open and straight. Very well could be coming. Let me tell you about what that question you just asked about the Insurrection Act. Because I had posted about this too. I said, you think the Panicans and Doomers are freaking out now? Just wait until President Trump uses the Insurrection Act to secure the midterms. If you think they're freaking out because President Trump said some bad words in a post, wait until it secures the voting and says, I'm rolling out the military at the midterms. Then they will really freak out. Good. I'm glad. I liked your comment there. That was perfect timing. Perfect timing. All right, everybody. I'm gonna head home, have some hot tea, and let's see if we have some festivities tonight. Talk to you soon.